All right.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Unmasked Podcast. I am Coach Diamond Drip, and I have my lovely co host, Rachel.
Buddy.
We are celebrating these New Year vibes. So I made the observation that the day before New Year's Eve, we had a new moon, which I'm sure a lot of people in the spiritual space, they were talking about like how powerful of a new year this was probably going to be. It's the best time to set intentions. It's the best time to put what you want manifestation wise into the universe. And that is not wrong. New moons are awesome opportunities to make your wishes known. But as we come to this full moon area, um, recognizing that life, because so many of us, we had a little bit of time off for the holidays. So we got to relax, we got to kick back, we got to spend time with family if applicable, we got to just kind of unwind because everything was closed for the holiday. And then that is a great time to set like intentions, to set resolutions. But then obviously we get back to work on the second or third, and life starts to kind of get back to what life does. And we don't have as much time on our hands, and we can't honor the resolutions or the routines that maybe we set for ourselves when we had more time. And so I thought it would be really cool for us to talk about, especially during this full moon place where forgiveness is such a key element in letting go of things. It would be cool to talk about how it's okay to flex your goals. We sometimes will set goals that are super, super like far, because we're like, if we shoot for the moon, we'll land amongst the stars. And sometimes at the root of those goals is that outside noise that we talk about. We are making goals based off of parameters that we're hearing outside of us and setting those metrics for success. So we set our goals to move towards those metrics of success. And then when we realize that we're different than those people, when we realize that there might be a different way for us, it gets a little bit harder to stay committed to those goals. And that's okay. And so we thought it would be really cool just to talk about, and I may bring in some human design pieces about like how half the population, we actually have undefined heart centers. And so a lot of us, especially if we set resolutions or we do goals like in a group setting, it's like, well, I have to prove that I'm serious about this goal. So I can't just give up on whatever it is. And it's like, no, we're not here to prove anything to anyone. Like, if your goal changed because you got new information that felt more right, like I have emotional authority. So I'm going to say felt better, and you rode your emotional wave about it, why would you spend time clinging to something that's no longer serving you, that doesn't light you up? I remember when I was considering becoming an IFA practitioner. And every morning when you get up, you're supposed to like pray. You're supposed to say these set of prayers. You're supposed to talk to the ancestors. And I would get up early in the morning to get these things done because that was how you're supposed to start your day. And in the beginning, it was nice. Um I was envisioning like these really great conversations. It was a time to be quiet and set intention for the day. But then when something stops being enjoyable and it feels like something you have to do and you're willing yourself into it just because you feel like you have to, then it becomes a problem because we're here to experience satisfaction. We're here to experience joy, peace, surprise. We're here to experience the full range of goodness.
Mhm.
So, especially for those of us who don't have defined heart centers, and we're really here to explore because we don't have anything to prove to anyone, why do we make ourselves wrong for doing what feels right to us? Because society says we need to pick something and stick with it, or else we'll seem flaky.
Right. Oh yeah, I've been down this road many, many times. So I have age on Diamond with this one because I have had a love-hate with goals and goal setting. So, and here's why. Because one, I have my heart center is completely open, like, or whatever. Um, so for me to view. I'm more in my head. I know my crown is completely closed, and my soul contract will tell you that too. I'm always in my head. So I am a thinker and I'm an analyzer, and I'm a 5-1, so like I said, I'm a thinker and I'm a researcher. So if someone says, "Oh, this is what you're supposed to do," I want to know why I'm supposed to do it. Like I want to understand how it works before I actually do a lot of things. And so sometimes if I make quick decisions, they're usually the best decisions. If I have to think on a decision, it takes too long. And that's goals for me. When I have to think too long on something, or I have to think, oh, this is going to take me, 5 years to accomplish, I will get bored in an instant. Like I've had books and books and notebooks and charts and graphs full of goals. And most of them probably were not mine. Like that, I wrote them saying they were mine, but they weren't mine. They were just because I heard this or I heard that, or I heard, this person's teachings, or I went to this workshop for goal setting, and I'm like, it became more of a competition than it actually became what I wanted to do. Like I had this is a completely weird like thing, but was having a debate with I have a husband and 2 male children that live in my house. And so I was having this debate, estrogen against testosterone debate, okay? And I said something because one of my children is a reflector for me, and so every time I say something he's going to match it, and he will call me on it every time. And so I had said something a little bit um abstract for him, and he didn't quite get it. And so I was trying to have a conversation more with my on my husband's level than on my son's level at this point. And so I was using terminology and words that my kids probably wouldn't understand, and they were more businessy type things. And then I said, well, I've had this goal since I was in high school that I've always wanted to learn how to dance, but I'm a white girl that can't dance. I just can't. I have never been able to dance. And so I always blame it on my upbringing. So I'm totally copping out here to the listeners. I blame my junior high experience on this because I lived in the South and we had the coming out parties for the girls still back in the 80s. And so that tells you how old I am because I was in junior high in the 80s. But I was going through junior high and we had to take these dance classes because they were like cotillions and things like that all these girls came out for. But we didn't have mixed classes in PE. So girls had girls classes, boys had boys classes, and for dance class we didn't mix. So some of us girls that were taller had to take on the boys' roles. So I know how to lead when I dance, but I do not know how to follow. So trying to learn any other dance style, I can't follow it. I want to lead it. And so I have struggled, but I'm like, I want to learn. And my husband's like, well, why haven't you never done it? And I said, because I would like to learn like ballroom dancing and stuff like that, but you won't go with me. And he said, well, who said I wouldn't go? I said, you told me about 15 years ago when I brought this up that you would not go with me. I said, so who's my partner going to be? Do you want me to go dance with another man? Well, no, that was his initial response. Like, no. And I'm like, if you don't go, then how do I accomplish it? And my son goes, well, I'll go with you, Mom. Now that's the challenge. The gauntlet was thrown down on my husband at that point because my sons are old enough now they could go and do that with me. And so it was one of those things like I've had this goal, but I wanted to do it in a certain parameter with my spouse, and he wouldn't do it, so I couldn't accomplish it. And he was like, well, I never said I wouldn't go. And my son, that remembers everything all of us say, goes, yeah, you did, Dad. And he was probably only like 3 or 4 at the time when he was set. And he was like, yeah, you told her you wouldn't go. And he was like, I remember where we were. And he was spot on. Like, I know we knew exactly the same conversation that had happened. And I was like, but it's a goal I have. And I was like, I'm at the point in my life now, well, if you don't want to go with me, I will go with my sons, or I will go with some friends, or I'll go with somebody else. Like, to me, the goal is my goal because I've had it over and over and over. It's not my husband's goal. Like, he doesn't care. Like, he can dance. He's always been able to dance. I've not been able to dance. But I'm like, I want to do this. And he was like, well, why don't you like do some like more modern dance? And I'm like, no. Like that, like I don't know that I can do that, but I could try, you know. But it was one of those things like I had set a goal many, many years ago that I wanted to learn something. The obstacles have been in the way for many, many years. And I'm now like, you know, this is my personal goal. I still haven't accomplished it. Now, am I beating myself up about it? No, I'm joking about it on this podcast because it is kind of comical. But, you know, that's a goal that I have. It's not anything to write home about. It's not anything that's going to, you know, catapult my business in any direction. It's not any, but for me, it's just a personal goal I've had. And will I accomplish it one day? Yeah. Like I want to be like the 97-year-old woman on television that's dancing with her grandsons and stuff at weddings and, you know, parties. And like, that's the grandma I want to be. And so I always tell my kids, I'm going to be the old lady that, you know, does all the things. Like I'm going to embarrass y'all and I'm going to be have fun with it and you're going to love it even though you talk about me as being embarrassing. Like that's the kind of grandma I want to be. And so why should I beat myself up about the goal? But why should I let other people tell me what my goal should look like? You know, and I realized like in that conversation, I had let my husband dictate what my goal looked like because he wouldn't go with me. So it was really an excuse to not do the goal. But it's still my goal. But I could let everybody go, oh, well, you should do this or you should do that. Da, 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 da. Well, I don't want to do that. I want to learn how to dance, you know, even with my 2 left feet. So that, I think for us as women, sometimes we set goals that are other people's. And that's why I have a love-hate relationship with goals because if a goal has stuck with me for 20 years that I want to do something and I haven't accomplished it yet, it doesn't make me less of a person because I haven't accomplished it, but it doesn't make an excuse for why I haven't accomplished it. That I have to reevaluate that and I have to look at that. And I think even in business, sometimes we set these lofty goals. Like before we even got on air, I was like, I would never want to be like Elon Musk business wise. Like, whether you like the dude or not, like I don't want that responsibility. Like seriously, I just don't. Like I don't want the responsibility of the money. I don't like I'm not a space person. Like, like I don't think that way. So I would never be him. But I would not want to be an Elon Musk-esque type business person. I just don't. I want to be me as a business person. So to have the same type of lofty goals that he has would be completely stupid. Even on my scale would be completely stupid because I'm going in a direction that's not my own. So for me, that's kind of the love-hate that I have with goal setting because I'm a responder, not an initiator personality. I am learning that really well. And it's frustrating because even in my chart, I'm not supposed to do a lot of that stuff. There are specific things that I'm supposed to do. And as long as I stay on that trajectory to do those things, I'm cool. But as soon as I deviate, it's a crash and burn.
I love that. I love that you brought up the piece of like it sticking with you as a goal for 20 years because those are the ones like the ones that stick with you, those are the ones that are like representative of your heart's desire. Those are the ones where, especially after so long of not doing whatever it is, like you start to, psych yourself out. Like, if I do dance, am I even gonna like it? Because I waited so long. Like, I've been talking about this for years. Like, and just being able to give yourself grace is so important, and recognize like it can be as small as, like, even with this dance example, like I had this a similar goal, um and I did the research to start joining like dance clubs and like dance meetup groups, because I knew someone who he belonged to a group of like, they were like global dancers, like not professional, but like they were just like global dancers. And so they had like a chat where if you were in an airport, like you could just see who else was in the area, and they would like just meet up and just practice dance. And I thought that was really cool, especially because with where I am now in my spiritual awakening, like something that other people would probably judge because they're too, worried about what other people think of them to do it. Like dancing in an airport, some
Yeah.
people would be mortified. Like, you're just gonna meet up with a stranger in the airport and you're just gonna dance with them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely freaking right I am, because
Yeah.
life is too short not to. If this is
Right.
something I love to do and this is something they love to do. So, not letting other people be a deterrent from your goal was also something that like came up as you were talking, like, and making sure that like if you one know the person that, like, if you set a goal and it requires somebody, making sure that that person is actually equipped to honor that commitment is super important, because if not, then you're going to let that be the thing
Mhm.
that deters you from actually going for something that you want. So, I love that it sparked like that debate between your son and your husband of like, well, I go with you. Um, but yeah, these are all like super important things. And it's okay that if you try, something, um, and it didn't go the way that you want it. Like, life is for experiences. Life
Absolutely.
is to try things out. So just because you've had a goal for a while and you do it and you're like, ah, I had it for a long time, I should stick it out. If it doesn't feel right, listen to the feeling, because so many times we have this intuitive wisdom in us, and we may not have gotten. I'm in this practice right now of like, where people see like problems, where people see um different things, like flipping the situation and looking at it from a different way, and being open to the possibilities that could come out of it. Like, that's what goals can lead to, especially if they're ones that you make for yourself, and
Mhm.
not things that like you're basing on, you know, outside outside noise, which we talked about in the last episode. Just canceling out the outside noise so you can make goals that are actually aligned. And that way they're easier to stick with.
Mhm. Well, let me add on something to the dance thing because I had a realization around the dance thing about a
Okay.
year ago. And why, for me, it's a delayed goal because dance and movement is so related to our spiritual journey and our spiritual awakening. And for me, that's part of my process. Like for in my chart, having that movement, having that freedom within my body, my like the physical earthly body is one of the things that I have to work towards. It's one of my major experiences that I have to learn through. And so when it is the right time, that dance will be part of that expression of that part of me being healed and being okay with the physical aspect of it. And it was super interesting. About 5 or 6 weeks ago, I had kind of a smaller, like, awakening of sorts, and not like a major one, but it was kind of like, ooh, something happened, and it was like completely a shift. And I knew that that shift was coming, but it was slow. Like, it was super slow, and I kept trying to push it, and when I just let it be, like, it happened within a matter of days, which that's the way it always works. But it was so interesting to me because physically I had been holding, I wasn't like overweight, but I had been holding on to like an excess of like 10 pounds that I had been trying to get off, working to get off, dieting to get off, change my diet, using, supplements, da da da. None of it was working. And as soon as that shift happened, within like a week, all the weight was gone because I had to allow myself within the goal. So the goal I thought of dance is not really the goal of dance. It's the goal of me sitting within my body and being able to understand my body to its full magnitude. Now, dance will be an aspect of that in the future. So when we go through these processes and we set goals, intentions, or whatever, manifestation, things that we want, oftentimes when those things don't come about, it's because we're not ready for them to happen yet. And my body was not ready to let go of that weight. It wasn't ready to do a lot of the things that now I'm able to do, even in like the short 6 or 8 weeks since this has happened, because I needed to be in a space and I needed to be in a place emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, in order for that shift to happen. And sometimes I think when like 20 years ago, I was given this idea of dance, and it's taken this long because my spiritual awakening didn't happen until like 5 years ago. It's taken this long for me to get to that place where I'm like, you know what? This is going to get here a lot faster than I think it is. And I know that, and I'm just allowing myself to sit in that and to allow that to happen. And now I'm like, I'm not even trying to get to my goal weight, but I'm getting closer to my goal weight a lot faster, not even trying. And I know that's going to, that's probably not going to be good for some people listening because they're going to be like, I'm sorry. But sometimes when we let things go, it oftentimes comes back to us because we're in such resistance to it,
Yeah.
because it feels safe, it feels good. Sometimes those physical things make us feel good. They're a security blanket for us in a manner of speaking. So when I find goals aren't coming like they're supposed to, I'm like you, I try to reframe them, and I'm like, okay, where is this spiritually for me? Like, is this goal fitting in my spiritual experiences? Are the experiences that I need to have or that are coming to me, does this align with it? Because I like this current 2020, because we're in 2025, I have to think about what year we're in. In 2024, there was a lot of goals that I had set out with because I was working more. I do more like the 90-day sprint type things because for my brain, that just like it's a shorter time frame. I can focus for the 90 days on certain things, certain, products or, services or whatever. And even in my own personal life, I kind of do that because of the cycle of my husband and I's business and our lifestyle and all those things. We've kind of cultivated that. And so I realized, like, after Q1 and Q2 last year, that some of these goals, other than one, were not in alignment with what I was doing. And the one was writing. And I write almost every day now because it's not a goal. It became just part of who I am. It's now a habit. It's my system. I have to write every day, or my whole being just is like, oh, I got these things, just like, even this is a form of writing to me, like this talking and share. This is my writing. Like, I didn't get up this morning and write because I wanted to have this type of experience of recording these sessions and fleshing out what my thoughts were. And so when we realize and we reframe those things, and I've written a book this year, I've started a blog this year, I write stuff all the time. I wrote programs. I was writing a program the other day for my husband. Like, I'm like, now but if you'd asked me 5 years ago to do that, I was not in the place mentally, emotionally, spiritually to do that. But now I am. So am I bad because I didn't reach the goal? Like I've been wanting to write a book for 10 years, but it wasn't the right time. Now my book's coming out soon. Yahoo. So that's the fun part of it. But I had to be right to align with the goal as well as the goal aligning with me. And I think that's where we sometimes with goal setting is like and I understand the whole mental framework. So those people in the comments don't come at us with the whole like, what is the guy's name? Napoleon Hill's thing, because I have tried that personally multiple times and I do have stuff written down and I read them all the time. But sometimes the deadlines are not my deadlines. Like I may have a deadline, but the deadline may have to get moved because I am not in a place or the goal is not in a place quite of alignment yet. Because sometimes the goal has got to be tweaked. You know, I had like my writing goal, I had a certain writing goal and it got tweaked because I actually exceeded that goal like 10 times before I even got to it because I was doing the thing and the experience created its own outcome. So that's where I go with goals and how I look at them and do them. I set them, but I don't always necessarily hold myself to the fire with them because I let them flow with how they're supposed to.
Yeah, and that creates space for newer, bigger, brighter things to come
Right.
in. So I love that.
Because I had to own being a writer. Like that was really difficult to own that. I don't know if you found that in your writing process, but I did. At first, I was like, I'm not a writer. But now, like I say, I'm a writer because I have written a book that's getting published. And so I am, which is still weird to say, but I'm in alignment with it now, so I can handle it. But if you asked me that 5 years ago, I'd have been like, no way in heck. But I wouldn't have wrote anything down. I didn't write hardly anything down. Journals, nothing. I didn't write them down. And I wish now I had, but I wasn't in a place to do that. So now I'm writing about a lot of those things that happened 4 or 5 years ago because they were so profound and they need to be told. But I needed to have the space to do that. And now I have the space. Because at that time I didn't have this, like I didn't have a moment to my name at that time. But now I do have space to do that. And I can create and design and rework and you know, we have tools now. Like if you don't know what to say, then put it in chat GPT, people. Like talk to it like it's a human. I do that all the time sometimes when I can't think of how to come out with something like a word like a sentence sometimes will not be the sentence you're like, this is not the sentence. Like it totally and sometimes you'll do stuff I do that all the time. I'll put it in the chat and I'll literally have an hour-long conversation with ChatGPT about a sentence because you want to get it, and then you end up having all these other creative things happen out of it. And so if you don't have an editor that lives in your house, there's a great way to to add in some things. I'm just saying, but we didn't have these tools years ago. So it would have been more frustrating to me because it would have taken 6, 8 months for me to figure something out instead of 60 minutes, or 6 minutes sometimes. I had that the other day. I could not figure out a word, like the exact word I needed for a sentence. And I was like, give me 20 variations of this sentence. And finally it spit it out. Like, it did. And I was like, that's the word. Like I knew that there was a word that meant a certain thing and I could not figure out the word. And it came and I was like, okay, here we go. Like I needed it. And so for goals, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in the end result that we forget the journey of the experience of that goal.
Yeah, I love that. And so as we round out and wrap up this episode, I want to really put a stake in the ground for a few things. So consider um if you're if you set New Year's resolutions, if you set those New Year's goals, if you set those New Year's intentions and you're moving towards them, like if it's lighting you up, keep doing it. Obviously, we're talking about for those of us who maybe set some things and we realize now that we've evolved and grown a little bit, our goals no longer match the direction that we're headed in. So these are the people we're talking to in these instances. And so I really want you, if goals are something that maybe you've had challenges with in the past or had a difficult relationship with, to consider setting intentions. Because when we set intentions, things can fall into place and they have a little bit more flexibility. I know so many times, smart goals are praised. And having them, pick a date for whatever it to be. But then if you shift and you evolve and you change, then you end up making yourself wrong because you're not meeting one of the metrics that you set. So intentions can be a very powerful way to shift away from those like, like these are the things. Another thing is making sure that whatever intentions you do set are things that light you up,
Mhm.
like on a deep level, something that if you do, it will bring joy, it will bring impact, it will bring meaning into your life, not just things that you've heard will help you reach whatever the goal is that you think that you're moving towards. Um, and then the last thing is making sure that we give ourselves the space and the flexibility to move and shift because it's okay.
Mhm.
We are here to experience the full gamut of things. So Rachel, letting you close this out if you have anything to add.
Oh, I think I talked enough during this episode. No, I just want to encourage people to embrace their uniqueness when it comes to goal setting. And I'm not saying that goal setting workshops and goal setting this and goal setting that, those things don't work because obviously for some people they do. But if if it's a space where it's not working for you, find ways to make it work for you uniquely. So I don't use the term goal anymore. I usually use an intention and I set a system for that intention because I'm a systems person just by nature, but also systems help me stay consistent in doing something. So like with the writing example, when I set out the intention, like literally I wrote on a card, I or like something to the effect in 2024, I will become a writer. That's literally what I wrote. That's all I wrote. Now, it was just said 2024. There was no end date. So when it happened, I didn't know. I just knew it was going to happen. And so I set systems like every day for half an hour to 1 hour, I was going to designate in the mornings. And so I did that. Now, sometimes things shifted in my morning, like my writing thing didn't happen until 11:30 that morning. Didn't, so if I didn't get it done at 6 o'clock that morning and I did get it done at 11:30, I didn't beat myself up over that. It was just, and there were some days it didn't happen until 3:30 because life happened. I homeschool kids, I have other things going on. It just did not happen. So I didn't beat myself up because and I didn't specifically say it had to be in the morning. I just said 30 to 60 minutes a day. So I gave myself that time, but I never went to bed without doing it. That was the only thing that I put on myself. But I got to where I actually really enjoy it. So now I wake up with ideas all the time and I come and I sit down and I'm like, and sometimes they will never see the light of day. They're for me. Sometimes they'll be on a blog. Sometimes they'll be in a program, wherever. So set what works for you. And if it doesn't work, change it. Like, don't go with what I say. Don't go with Diamond said. Find what works for you. And in that process, it becomes a uniquely you having the experiences, not expectations of others, but the experiences that you as a soul are supposed to have. And the things that you reach are what you're supposed to reach. And in that process, that should bring you the highest form of joy and compassion and love for yourself. And so I think if that happens, then hey, you've knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. So that's what I want to say to guys.
Completely, completely agree. So thank you, listeners, for sticking with us through this episode. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bells and things wherever you are listening to this on or at. Um,
Make
uh,
sure you share it with somebody who needs to hear it.
yes, absolutely. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.